Hello, listeners, fans, Gridiron 360. In the Crizzle, Over Shizzle, Dave and Bill on the mics, Comment Ball 6.0. We've been getting out the 5 prior casts, directly addressing those out there, not just listening, but taking the time to make comments, good, bad, or indifferent, on our YouTube channel. Please go out there, find us, Gridiron 360. We're on YouTube, subscribe. We're on iTunes, subscribe. We're on Facebook, like us and follow. I think I got us up out on the the Twitters, not the gram. We're older guys trying to play with the socials just like these younger folks and get it, quite frankly. Let's get it. Get it. So, today we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns free agency podcast that we put out last week. And we had a fan that goes by the handle Sean M923 make a comment that every player we listed in that cast was pretty much gone.
Considered gone.
And keep in mind, there is timeliness to this just because when we're able to render our podcast and upload it to the channel, sometimes time passes. It might be a few hours. It might be a day or a few days. As well, as we've said in the other ones, we ripped through about 4 or 5 days, ripped through 32 teams individually. We were moving fast. We don't know everything. We're not beat writers for each team. We're pretty knowledgeable. So if we mess something up, well, hell, that's why we have you on it to keep our ass in check. So
well, and also understand too, we were trying to inform, because these are not necessarily just for Cleveland fans, for anybody who wants to hear about Cleveland, to understand who was listed as their free agents. It wasn't bringing everybody back. Probably the one thing that I missed on, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't pay a lot of attention to the TMZ crap that comes out with athletes.
Yeah.
I know they were, I guess it talked about getting rid of Greg Robinson. We listed that offensive tackle was a big place for them to go.
We've been using SpotTrack, SPOTRAC.com, which lists the free agents, and he's still on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he is, because they they list free agents, including people that are either not going to have been told they're not going to be re-signed, or people that have been cut as free agents. The point being is the spot is open. I wasn't aware that he tried to bring in 7,000 kilos of whatever up his rectum.
But it just, again,
it slipped my mind.
Yeah, I remember when it came up, but it's been a minute, and it just didn't pop into my head. So thanks for calling us out on that. Yes.
Yep.
Robinson is, we did go to the depth chart on our lads because we use that, and he is not on the depth chart there. And, all signs lead to that they released him, a lot in part having to do with his charge. But in addition to that,
and bad play.
Even when, that's it. I mean, even when he was brought into the league, I think the Lions drafted him. He's just not lived up.
No, I think it was the Rams. He was an Auburn guy. I remember that.
Yeah, he was an Auburn guy.
But anyway, the point we missed that. The other part too is when the Austin Hooper signing had come down, there was a lot of talk out there that they were going to move on from Njoku. That doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like they do want to keep him. Like I had mentioned, like Ricky Seals-Jones, do they bring him back, meaning just to fill out the tight end room, not as anything prolific? That's probably not going to happen. I did say they needed to go out and look at the safety. They went out and got Carl Joseph, so they got a nice upgrade out there at safety. But the point was to give people information. If you're listening to these, we're going to talk a lot about our opinions of where the team's at and the players, and they are our opinions.
It was the Rams, by the way, that he was drafted first round, second overall by the St. Louis Rams in 2014.
Yep. So just, be aware of that, that's what we were listing that for. So, but, I get your point. You're saying, like, I guess as a Cleveland fan, I'm going to assume you are, that you knew some of this already because it had already kind of come out.
And we're in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're hearing local
Yeah.
Constant local talk about.
We're trying to keep up. We certainly there's local people that have some serious inside tracks, but obviously there's guys out there like Adam Schefter, who are known to break stuff like very quickly. The guy from NFL Network, Rappaport. Guys like that. So, we try to pay attention to what's going on out there. But in talking about Cleveland, let me just say this. There's all this talk that they're making big moves, and I'm seeing a lot of stuff out there. And
they got Jack Conklin from Tennessee.
I like their moves.
I think that's a great pick. He was one of the, if not one of the best free agent offensive linemen out on the market this year.
Yeah, and they took him, and it shores up your line. Now, let me say this. There's all this talk like Cleveland's really going for it this year. Let's be honest. Everybody said Cleveland was going for it last year, and they underperformed with all the talent they brought in. Certainly, there's a lot of question marks with Baker Mayfield and whether he's the guy. So much so that they bring in a guy like Keenum because they are going for it, and I'm fine with them going for it. They got a challenging division. Signs do look pointing up, but also people were talking about this team being certainly a playoff team, if not a contender last year, and they were never even close to that.
Nope.
So, and again, I'm not saying they can't turn it around. I think it's interesting what they did with their coach. They moved on from Freddie and got Stefanski. What's interesting is Stefanski was kind of the runner-up to when they decided to commit to Kitchen last year. So they're kind of going with their plan B after they made a one-year move on him, which I think was the right move. I think he didn't really have any sort of control over the way that they were going to run their schemes, and there was a lot of chaos, and hopefully there's some settling here in this with their next coach. I know Cleveland's hungry for an opportunity, and certainly they shot their shot, so to speak. So let's see what they do. But I do have question marks. Can they put it all together, and can they make this work? Because the organization has been pretty dysfunctional for a long period of time, and do they finally have the right mixture together, particularly from the coach on up, to make a run at this? So that's kind of my thought. But just wanted to explain why we did that, not necessarily saying that. And we missed on stuff. The Greg Robinson thing was a foregone conclusion. I'm going to tell you right now, I will pay a little bit more attention to it, but I hate that part of sports.
Yeah.
I've got no respect for $1 million people going out and committing crimes. So I tend to tune that out. I'm going to be honest.
And we don't usually talk about it. If we do, we don't beat the drum over and over. I mean, if you listen to some sports channels, when something big like that happens, they'll sit there and talk about it all week. We'd rather just talk about it, address it, and move on, because it's not the part we are huge fans. It's not the part we want to have to deal with. In fact, the CBA stuff, we put one out about a week and a half ago. It was CBA for the fans, because look, as a fan, it's great to know the new being that, we're coming to the end of, what is it, like 12 years or so from the last 11, 12?
It was 9. It was a 10-year total deal.
So, I mean, the last CBA, and now they're readjusting it. And sure, we want to know, but we want to know what's pertinent as fans, how it might affect our team or our thinking. But something like this, they're still talking about it. It's, the constant talk. And there's a point where it's just like, okay.
Yep.
Okay, because it's just talk. Because at the end of the day, we don't make those decisions. They do, and we just have to succumb to whatever happens. So just to beat a dead drum forever and ever, and then maybe whatever the hell we might have been talking about, it goes completely. I mean, it's just not something we want to dwell on. We'd rather talk about the teams, the players, get you excited, and make it actually sound like, hey, we're talking football, not like the ancillary stuff. Not that it's not important.
Yep.
We will address it, but we're not going to beat it over and over and over. What you want to hear is about your teams, players, football.
Yep.
Football that's handled on the field, or how the transactions, as we talk free agency and draft, are going to affect your team on the field for the upcoming season.
All right, so let's do that. Let's just say this. I'm going to talk about their offense real simply. They've got no excuses anymore. They're going to be very, very well positioned to get a left tackle. That probably could be a left tackle, obviously with the sudden retirement of Joe Thomas a few years back. Have you seen that dude lately? Man, he lost a ton of weight. He
yes,
is a
'cause
thin-looking
he does
dude.
commentary nowadays.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
You don't even know. There were
Freaks
times
me
like,
out when
who
I
is
saw
that?
him. Yeah, you're like, I know
Yeah,
that guy,
I know
but
what
I don't.
Joe Thomas looks like, but you look at him and you're like, whoa, dude, is that
Good for him, though. It's better than going the other way. Some
Listen,
guys
man,
blow up.
That guy, by the way, that guy, not just great career, but I remember when he was drafted. I think he wasn't out there. I think he was out fishing with like his dad or something like that. It was a big thing because he was the top, like
Not sitting in his living room or at the place.
not in the green room or
Yeah.
at the draft. I mean, just we talk a lot about character and class acts. That guy spent an entire career playing really well for the Browns. You never heard a peep out. You talk about
could have pushed his way out.
talk
with some of the
about
garbage.
Greg Robinson, offensive lineman, making a splash with his off-field antics. I mean, this is a guy that
Yep.
I like me so that like me some Joe Thomas.
Yep.
I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. It just sucks he never was able to
Play on a winner. Yep.
Yeah, play with a winner.
And I think this is the
And
thing.
this is no offense to you, Sean M923, or any of you Cleveland fans out there, but quite frankly,
is what
I
it
think
is.
you're used to it.
Yeah, but right now, like they are well positioned to get one of the top 3, if not the top tackle out there, to move forward. So I look at this team, kind of going side to side on the offensive line. You look at their offensive weapons. I love their backfield. I love it. I wish they would utilize it a lot more than they do. Certainly did, at least early in the year. A little less in the air and a little more with the running backs. I think Kareem Hunt, what he did in the second half of the year, really showed that could be a real dangerous piece with Nick Chubb, who obviously has more than delivered on his draft status to this point. So
You
to
go
me with
out,
Cleveland,
you
it's-
got Conklin to help
Yeah.
that whole thing on
Yeah.
offense. You get Austin Hooper.
you already have
I
a
like-
receiving core.
Yeah, I mean, I like Hooper. I mean, we're here in Atlanta, so I think I always thought like you see him every year. This is his best year by far in terms of receiving, and he's really that kind of tight end.
Yep.
In the NFL, quite frankly, they're looking for those type of tight ends. Not that you don't look for tight ends that can down block too, but if you had your choice between the tight end that's a really good pass catching tight end or a really good blocker, nowadays they're going to go towards the guy that could potentially put points on the board. So, but then you still have Njoku, who you invested a high pick in.
Which
a
if
few
they're going to
years
hold
ago,
on
so
to
what's
him,
gonna
yeah,
happen? You know what I mean?
yeah. So this is a team that, I guess what I would say out of Cleveland right now is there's no excuses what they're going to have this year. You got to remember on defense, I already mentioned they signed Carl Joseph at safety, got a good contract on Andrew Billings at D tackle.
Mm-hmm.
They got Myles Garrett coming back. They have Vernon playing on the other end.
And that can be a conundrum. Olivier's getting up there in years, and I don't remember the last time, if ever, since he started in the NFL, if he's played a full season. He was with my New York Giants for a little while. I liked bringing him in. I saw his effectiveness when we first brought him in, but then I felt like more times than not he was on riding pine because he was hurt.
Yeah, well,
You
yeah.
can't have that.
But here's what they got to do. You're gonna have to. You're drafting depth now. Your starters are there. Maybe look at some linebacking upgrades. But we're talking about little stuff. You spent big money on your corner, or not big money. A big draft pick on your corner in Denzel Ward, and their other corner is escaping me.
Who of Cleveland?
Cleveland, yeah.
They've got Denzel Ward listed as their left corner, and they got
I'm blanking. I shouldn't be blanking.
drafted him last year at LSU.
Greedy, right?
Greedy.
Yeah, Greedy. I knew they had somebody else. So
Greedy Williams.
So you got
He's good.
You've
They're-
got
both
you
those
got
guys
some
are
youth.
young though, and that's okay.
Because I'm going to say it this way.
They didn't shat themselves
No. But
last year, but they're just gonna get better.
But this defense still, even with a lot of the weapons they had, was ranked 20th in points and 22nd in overall defense. So it wasn't quite the elite level. This is a chance for them to kind of make that mark. And the time is now for Cleveland. And they can't stutter out of the gates. I would say this, and I think this is kind of interesting with Keenum. I mean, I'm not in love with Keenum, but he has proven that he can be a very capable backup and maybe even a reasonable starter. I think with all those weapons, this team should still be contending, especially now with 7 teams in the playoffs. I think you don't go to the playoffs. I think you got some serious problems next year.
Well, I mean, there's a lot. Unfortunately for Cleveland, I think they're The new coach is going to be important on how he's able to, wrangle in the team here. All right, because you do have a lot of personalities. You got your Odell Beckhams. You got Jarvis Landry. He doesn't bark a lot, but he did bark a little this year. Now, it was the second year working with Baker Mayfield, and it showed.
Well, I think they were all frustrated, too.
And I
Very
think
frustrated.
maybe another year working with Mayfield, maybe OBJ next year, kind of you see that
Comes back,
acceleration
yep.
as well. But then you have the antics on the field with Myles Garrett in the Pittsburgh game, and then you have everybody talking about their coach and Freddie Kitchens, and it's tough to do that job. And I don't mean to call the guy like a buffoon, but he just people. That's the kind of
He couldn't
banter. It felt like this guy don't know what the hell he's doing and stuff, and that's a tough gig. But my point there is you've got to get the guy in place that can corral this and keep it going in the direction where everybody's on the same page.
Well, we said this. We said last year was, when we were talking about Cleveland, there's a lot of talent when you look at it position by position, but there's also a lot of personality. There you go, personalities.
A lot of characters.
And again, I'm careful about the frustration level, because when you're touted like you are and you come out of the gate and you really struggle, every team's going to feel that. And it's the ability of the leadership, not just on the coaching staff, but the leadership amongst the players. And, obviously a lot of teams look to their quarterback, and Baker Mayfield is not exactly the most emotional guy. And one of the things that was most frustrating watching Cleveland was I said it last year, they needed to get the reins on Baker Mayfield, use their running game to set up their pass, even though they spent all this money on this passing game, but they didn't do that
all year.
Yeah. Now, Stefanski, comes from, Minnesota, right? So maybe, and remember Kirk Cousins had his struggles and was, until this year, was widely known as the guy. I think he had coming into the year, a 5-29 record against, it was either teams over 500 or playoff teams. He had a really poor record. And what they did is, they took Dalvin Cook, who had a phenomenal year. I think Nick Chubb is right there in that category with them, and add Kareem Hunt on top of that. And then they started to build the offense, and then
Nick
all of a
Chubb's
sudden,
a superstar, man.
Yeah, when Thielen started going down and Diggs had some issues, they still went to the pass, and all of a sudden Kirk Cousins looked a lot different in the middle of the year than he had previously with Minnesota. So much so they re-upped him for another 2 years. And, I think that's the kind of path they have to look at with Baker Mayfield, because he's a guy that lets his emotions sometimes get the better of him. But having some of that emotion is great, because there are times, like I remember watching him against Oklahoma or against Georgia. That was one of the greatest playoff games I ever saw, and he was amped up.
Yeah.
And that was
even though they lost.
It was a shootout back and forth, and he single-handedly took that team.
My
to
concern,
that.
as I've said,
but you gotta rein that in,
though, with Baker Mayfield, and not that taking him number one overall was a shock when they did. Still a bit of a surprise to me. That wasn't what everyone expected. And then as it came to like a day or two before the draft,
it started really leaking.
It started to really come out. But look. The system they ran under Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma is, if you watch that ball, they have players, and they're playing in the Big 12, and unfortunately, even then and still now, they've tried to improve it, lacks a little on the defensive side.
Just a wee bit.
Guys wide open receivers. You're not going to get that in the NFL. And I saw, especially this last year, him have a tough time getting the ball to guys that were covered well, or as we talked about with the Burrow thing, fitting it into short windows. I never saw that a ton in college.
Well, here's the whole thing: is
he can air it out, but I never saw him being able to fit it in.
But this is always a challenge in college that people forget: is even the most the talented arm quarterbacks. You have the ability on these high-level college teams to see a guy, throw it to the guy. In the NFL, 80% of your passes got to be anticipation. Wide open in the NFL is 12 inches.
Yep.
You got to have a 12-inch window, sometimes.
You either better have the beast that's got that wingspan to go up and win that match, or you better be able to put it right on them, or like you said, anticipate.
I mean, there's only so many Tyreek Hills that can actually run away from corners in the NFL. So I think this is kind of that challenge. Now, this may be the help is with the improvement on this defense. Again, coronavirus not destroying any sort of training camp. I think the great part will be having, the better this defense gets, the better looks they get offensively.
Yep.
But to me, you can take some of the reins off of him, allow the run, because when the running game opens it up, that's where you start getting guys wide open, and allow him to kind of just, I guess, maneuver his way into becoming a better quarterback. And but again, his emotion, that's not his natural intention, and he is an emotional, fiery guy. He wants to prove that he can fit a ball into every window that he throws to. But you got to rein that back.
Yep.
But here's the whole point is they are what they are now, and this is a team, even if they have to pull away from Baker Mayfield, if it gets a little catastrophic early on, and they can't wait till game 8 if they're they can't go 2-6 and not in this division. But if they do, Case Keenum, in my mind, with this team, is still good enough to take this team to the playoffs. So I think if they don't make the playoffs, it's going to get chaotic.
Well, I think that, looking at a quarterback coming out of college, I think one thing that goes overlooked so many times, even though they have the little sessions in the room on the board, is their knowledge, is their mind. And it's not just sitting there on a board, what would you do here? But you got to put them in a pressure cooker. And what would you do on the board? Because that's where he really, like, when things got, you feel like as the game's going on, you're starting to feel momentum. And if it wasn't for them, like the guy, I just feel like just tries to press too much. And if they could just establish the run game, no matter where they're at in the game, momentum, score, whatever, if he's comfortable with the run game and it's getting at least some, it's not negative yards every time, which with that tandem, just not gonna. They didn't see it much. There was only so many times that Nick Chubb would be stopped, in the first or second quarter before he started to break loose. So but that comfort you can have, knowing you can rely on that, maybe won't get him so fidgety if he's in the pressure cooker.
And you change the defense. So this is. Yeah, I get it. Cleveland fans are hard up for a winner. They deserve a winner. They got screwed when Baltimore went out of town. I know that's a lot of
LeBron James left. Oh God, we're not basketball guys. And people may even say that the Cavaliers won championships, so Cleveland's got there. Yeah, man, I hear you. For the true football fan, it doesn't matter. We're in Atlanta. And I'm a Giants fan. But, at the end of the day, if I was from here, it's the Braves, love them, great. Hawks, I like you. But what the people really want to see is their NFL team be the champ. So I feel you, Cleveland. You want some.
Yep.
Rightfully so.
But it doesn't change the dynamic. You can have all the talent in the world. If you don't have the personalities lined up correctly, then it's going to matter. But winning does cure a lot of ills.
It does. But anyways, I think we kind of went on enough about that, but we do appreciate you, Sean M923. Keep it coming, my friend. And we'll see you next time, Dave.
Where's that at?
The Gridiron! Yeah!